Hey, this is Marie. Thanks for joining me again. If this is your first time with me, I'm going to be talking about some pretty ugly things on here. And if you don't want to hear a bunch of ugly things about fat people, then I'm going to give you a few seconds right now to move on to another channel. All right, and for those of you who have stayed, I basically want to talk about being overweight and being obese. And some of the things that I absolutely disliked about it. I don't want to use the word hate because it's so strong, but I don't know. I could pretty much use the word hate, but I recently read an article just yesterday, as a matter of fact, and I wanted to share a little snippet of that article because that article is what led to this video. And it says, the willingness to ridicule obesity and make fun of appearances based on weight remains more acceptable than other kinds of biased comments that are no longer tolerated. One study by Yale University recently showed that male jurors were biased against heavy women and were more likely to find them guilty than leaner women. Some have called obesity the last acceptable bias in American life. And you know what? I cannot agree with that more. Because, if you make a racial comment, and believe me, I'm Latin, so I have not been spared the racial BS. But, if you make a racial comment, there's a good chance that you're going to get yourself killed or, beat up or whatever. That is just not accepted anymore in any society. I mean, politicians even can't say anything. The gay community was ridiculed for a very long time, and now, they're being more and more accepted, and less people are able to comment without being ridiculed or frowned down upon. But it seems that being overweight and obesity, there's no issues with it. It's perfectly normal to do that. And look at the governor right now, is it New Jersey, who just happened to have surgery. I believe that's who it is. Don't quote me on that. Who just happened to have surgery because he wants to lose weight for his family, and they're saying, oh, it's because of politics. And I mean, it's like, it's a free-for-all when it comes to being overweight. I'm going to share with you some of the things that I absolutely despised. Yes, I'm going to use that word, despised, being overweight. Being 300 pounds and being 180 pounds now, you almost kind of have the same mentality. I mean, you look in the mirror and every day you see yourself you just see yourself. You see yourself at that same weight, whether you're 150 or 250, you have that same mentality. And I think that we need to find ourselves, even if you're trying to lose weight, we need to find ourselves beautiful at any size. Because if you can't accept where you are and you can't love yourself where you are right now, you're not going to love yourself and accept yourself when you're thin and you're 180, 150, 120 pounds. It's just not going to happen. There's got to be that love for self. So, without any further ado, here's my top 10 things that I absolutely despised about being overweight. No one likes being overweight. I do not believe that you can go up to any fat person or any obese person and go, hey, do you really like being overweight? And they're going to go, oh yeah, I love it. No, it is not. I hated it the whole time that I was 300 pounds. I hated it. I hated going clothes shopping, trying on clothes, going out in public, anything. You just do not feel what. No one wants to be overweight. No one. And no one likes the way they're eating. I mean, when I used to sit down and watch TV and eat a whole cake, a whole thing of pound cake, I hated myself. I just hated myself after I did it. I felt so bad and I felt so guilty. I mean, there was such a horrible food addiction involved with that. you know, and then you hate yourself till the very next day, and you try so hard, and you say, you know, I'm going to conquer this. I can get through this. And the next thing you know, you're buying yourself a donut and you're starting all over again, and then you're hating yourself, and it becomes this huge, horrible, nasty, it's a constant vicious circle. And, you know, it really, no one wants to be there. Just no one wants to be there. So one of the things that my number one is, was going out to eat whenever I was invited with friends or, you know, with family or whatever, to go out and eat, because I always felt like I was being judged when I ate. Because I was very heavy, I always felt like everybody was looking at me, well, look what she's eating. How much is she eating on her plate? How, you know, maybe it might have just been in my mind, excuse me, but that was one of the things that really, really bothered me when I was very overweight. Number two, let me grab some here. I think. Number two is the pants. When you have a pair of pants, and like I said, this is going to get graphic. When you have a pair of pants and your thighs are the size of 2 tree trunks, okay, because you're not little skinny mini, what happens is your legs rub, and they rub, and they rub. A pair of pants that would normally last any female on the face of the planet 8 months, a year, 2 years, even 5 years. I've known women who've had nice clothes in their closets for 5 years. Will only last you an average of about, I'd say, 3 to 4 months. Why? Because there's seams on the inside of the crotch area where your legs are supposed to be. And as you're rubbing those thighs together, you're wearing out not only the seams. I can't tell you how many nights I sat there with a thread and a needle sewing up holes in my seams because I had literally wore them out from rubbing my thighs together. Now you can only do that so much till you finally just wear the material between your thighs gets very, 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 very thin, and it just finally wears out and you have to throw the pants away. I hated, there are some pants that I just absolutely adored. I'm like, oh my God, I love the way those pants fit on me. But they would only last a couple of months because of that. Because of the constant rubbing, they're gone. So that's my number two thing that I absolutely hated about being obese. Another thing that I hated, number three, would be the lack of skirts and dresses that I have. You know, I used to see all these women, and it'd be like Easter or you know, or whatever holiday it would be, or their birthdays, or you'd see them out for Mother's Day or whatever, and they'd have these beautiful little summer dresses and I used to sit there and go, oh God, I would love to be able to do that, but you couldn't. And the reason that you couldn't is because, going back to the prior hate, you're rubbing, and you're rubbing. And if you think that there is friction in clothes, try skin to skin. And as you're walking, you're doing this. Dude, I'm surprised more heavy people don't catch themselves on fire. That's why you're not seeing a lot of heavyweight people out there wearing skirts and dresses. And if they are, I can 99% guarantee you there's a pair of shorts under there. Because you kill yourself. I mean, you kill yourself. By the end of the day, even if you're only wearing it for a couple of hours, the friction and everything else is just, it's unbelievable. And by the end of the day, you're literally putting anything on the inside of your thighs to cool it down, because you have just given yourself the worst rug burn that you could possibly ever imagine. And that rug burn lasts for days. I told you should have switched this channel, but you didn't listen. Number four is the leg swelling. Your legs have a tendency, you're looking at a person who's maybe 5'2", 5'3", 5'4", and they're having to support 200, 300, 400 pounds. Your poor legs, your poor feet were not meant to support that kind of weight. They're sitting there screaming. It's like, oh, bloody hell, I can't hold this much longer. So by the end of the day, your feet, I would work, and by the end of the day, my feet would be so freaking swollen that my shoes would start cutting into my feet. And I would literally come home and I would have like cuts on the top of my feet where my feet would swell so bad. So a lot of times, you'll notice them. I mean, I even do that now. I'll be at a restaurant, whatever, and I'll see somebody very heavy walk by, and I'll look down at their feet, and I'm just like, oh my God, I remember that. Oh, my poor feet, And because of the weight, you notice that all heavy people will actually work their shoes outward. They will literally stretch their shoes all outward. So you take off your shoes, and your shoes are always looking like this. Because that's the way you walk. You can't not distribute that weight properly. So I know you're going to be going out to dinner now looking at everybody's feet who's overweight, but I'm trying to be as honest and truthful here as I possibly can, because I want you guys who are thin and always have been thin and beautifully blessed to understand what a heavy person goes through in a day. It's not all fun and games, and it's not like, oh, they want to be that way. No. So I'm trying to explain to you guys here and trying to be honest about it. Number 5 is the girls. When you're very top heavy, it's not like when you don't have any breasts. Okay, when you're very top heavy, the breast tends to sit on the skin. So going without a bra, I don't even know how women who are heavy do it. I have no idea, because there's a lot of, in the summertime it gets very, very hot, and there's a lot of chafing that goes on in between, the stomach and the breast. And it has got to be one of the absolutely, oh my gosh, one of the most painful things that anyone can experience. The only thing more painful than the under breast burns are the stinking bras that you have to wear. They're full of wires, and I mean, it's like a contraption putting this thing on. And when your breasts are real big, you have a tendency, it cuts into your shoulders up here, because you are having to hold that all that weight up, and it kills your back at the end of the day. I mean, in the last few months, I've had less backaches than I've ever had. My straps, I now have, very little straps. I don't have those wide things that I used to have, and I'm able to wear bras that don't have that wire that is just, it constantly digs into your side right here. It's one of the worst things that anybody could experience. But you know what? Heavy-set women have to go through that every day. I can only speak for the women. I can't speak for the men. I'm hoping that someone has the guts out there to do the man video opposite this and explain what men have to go through, because I know that men have their own set of problems, I'm sure. But I'm one of those people, I'm not ashamed to talk about anything. I just don't care. Because you know what? When you're in the closet, when you're hiding in the shadows, you're not helping anyone out. The only person you're helping out is your ego. Because you want to keep it safe, and you want to keep it smooth, and you want to be good to it, and you want to make sure that it doesn't get hurt. But you know what? You're not doing anybody any favors by that. So in order to come out in here into the open, I want to talk about obesity. I want to talk about health. I want to talk about dentures. I want to talk about everything, because maybe more people will start coming out and helping each other, because that's why we were put on this planet, was to help one another, not to talk crap about one another. Another problem with the girls is that when you start strapping everything down, and when you start wearing wires, and when you start having all this problem, There's a lot of lymph nodes that run on the side of your breast. When you start strapping everything and tightening everything and supporting everything, your lymph system does not flow the way it's supposed to. And, there's more chance that you have to take mammograms, which you shouldn't do, because, you get a lot of lymphatic congestion in your bras, in your breasts, and you can actually feel it, they tell you to do breast tests, but as you feel it, you're like, wow, that's a huge bump. Is that cancer? Is that a node? Or is that just stagnant lymphatic fluid? Oh, well, hey, here's another one. Oh my gosh, okay, this one feels more like a pebble. So should I have this one looked at? So it's a constant problem. And because your breasts are nothing but fat, when you have that much fat in your breasts, it's very hard to find those nodes. It's very hard to find, cancer can go undetected for months and months and years because you can't even find it. And even mammograms are very hard when you're pressing this between two plates and you've got something the size of a watermelon that you got to fit in there. It's very, very hard. Just like for women who don't have breasts, it's just as hard for women who do, so it's pretty simple. Okay, let me see here. Number 6, tying the shoes. From now on, when you go out to dinner, look at the heavyset ladies. Look at their feet. Guaranteed 9 out of 10 times they will be shoes that you slip into. 99% of the shoes in my closet, I wish I had bought them out, are shoes that you slip into. Because bending over, now I can touch my feet, not a problem. Bending over to tie your shoes, trying to get over your stomach to bend over to tie your shoes is nothing short of a gymnastic event. It's almost impossible. And you start losing air because you're cutting your own air off from, leaning over your stomach. So that was another thing, was the shoes. Trying to find the shoes that you just slip into was always a nightmare because a lot of them tie up, or, you want something flat. You don't want to put even more weight on, something that leans, and, you're very limited to what shoes you can actually wear, straps that won't cut into your feet, blah, blah, blah. Number 7, seating. You would never think that sitting down would be such a nightmare, but it is. Sitting in chairs. Sitting in folding chairs. Okay, that's just scary. Sitting at the movie theater. Sitting in the car. Sitting at a baseball game. Sitting on an airplane. Each one has their own things surrounding it. Sitting in a folding chair is a flippin' nightmare. You don't ever know when that chair is going to give out, if it's going to be able to hold your weight. I've had chairs literally break underneath my weight when I was 300 pounds. There was chairs that I could not get into at 300 pounds, especially those little, those plastic things with anything with an arm was a nightmare, because you knew that your fat was going to hang over on each side and you were going to be hanging off that chair, and aluminum chairs, forget it. You could not get me to sit in an aluminum chair. Now I do, but I wouldn't back then. There was no way. Number 1, you can't fit. Number 2, you don't know if it's going to support your weight. Going to the movies, a nightmare. You have no idea if that movie theater that you're going to be going to, again, with the arms, if you're going to be able to fit everything that you own between those two arms. And 9 out of 10, if it's a very important movie, if it's a busy movie, you don't want to go, because the person next to you, you're going to be taking up some of his space with your overlaying stuff. So they're going to be pissed because they can't put their arms up there. They can't put their sodas up there because you're taking up some of their space. And believe me, sometimes it's okay, because 9 out of 10 times you never want to sit next to the fat person, right? Because the fat person probably smells and takes up too much room and blah, 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 and they're going to eat and they're going to throw popcorn everywhere. So, you're kind of blessed that way. Baseball games, forget it. I've had my husband wanted to take me to a couple of baseball games when I was heavy, and I was like, no, the chairs at a baseball game are like 2x2. You know, it's like there's no way. I mean, unless you're a size 3, your butt is not going to fit in those things. I've seen women literally like sideways, you know, and I'm just like, I don't need to go to a game that badly. I recently went out to lunch and I heard the man behind me speaking. He was a pretty good sized man, and he was saying that he needs to start going to the gym daily because starting as of I think next month, they were going to start fining you $50 for every extra, I think it was like 20 pounds that you were over, you know, on a seat on an airplane. So, I mean, eventually, yeah, you know, I mean, they're going to start. We keep getting bigger. I even read an article the other day that said that caskets are getting bigger and bigger and bigger because people are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Number 8 kind of goes around along with number 7, restaurant profiling. Oh man, did I hate that. They do this as if you don't notice, as if you're too dumb to pick up on what's going on. I used to walk into a restaurant. Now my husband is very tall. He's 6 foot and he's very thin. So, you know, we kind of look like Laurel and Hardy, if you remember them. But anyway, you know, I was like this and he was like this. And we would walk into a restaurant and they would instantly, without asking, I noticed, I wasn't dumb, the people before us, they would go, would you like a booth or would you like a table? Da-da-da, you know, would you like a booth? Would you like a table? And then they'd come to us and they'd go, come this way, please. And I'm like, oh, we don't get the option of a booth or a table? Because they knew damn well my butt was not going to fit in a booth. They did not want to take that chance because that's an embarrassment to the seater. But at the same time, they wouldn't sit us in the middle of the dining room. They'd have these special tables reserved way in the back of the restaurant because they knew if you were heavy, other people were going to be looking at you. They didn't want that in their restaurant. They knew that if you were weight, chances are, if you were overweight, the chances are that you were going to be picking out. They didn't want that, you know, because, you know, fat people are disgusting when we eat, right? You know, I used to get really offended by that. Now, every single time I walk into a restaurant and they say, do you want a booth or a table? I go, I want a freaking booth. I want a booth because I'm so thrilled that I can now sit in a booth. I don't care if that booth has got a crevice in it. I don't care if it's falling apart. I'd rather sit at the booth. All right, number 9, buying clothes. Now there's a reason why I have this shirt on, okay? This is actually a full-figured shirt because I'm still 180 pounds. I'm still considered full-figured. But one of the things that I despised when I was obese and I was 300 pounds was they will take you up to a size. They used to be able to go to Walmart, go to Kmart, go to Sears, any of these stores, and you could find up to a size 18. Then they narrowed it down to a size 16. Then they narrowed it down to like a size 12. So now, in order for you to get anything past a size 12, you have to go to, you know, Lane Bryant's or all these specialty stores. You can't buy regular clothes at a Walmart. You can't buy, you know, it's ridiculous. If you do find the clothes, they're going to be more money and they're going to look like a muumuu because they have the ugliest prints and the ugliest styles for women who are size 14 and over. Everything is beautiful up to like size 14 and then it just, I don't know, it looks like the curtains, you know, out of The Sound of Music. They just took them off the, you know, the walls and made you something out of it. It's horrible. Or if you do find something and it's cute, you end up with something like this. Now the bottom of this shirt is really loose. So the designer was just assuming that the person that was wearing it or the overweight person has a huge stomach, right? But it's super, super tight around my breasts. So I can already tell you this designer was assuming that all heavy-set people have small breasts and big hips. And it's really super tight around the sleeves. Okay, I mean it's really tight around the sleeves. So some designers make like bowing sleeves because I don't know, it's like what they think in their mind. Very few designers actually cater to the actual full-figured woman. Very few designers. And number 10 has got to be my all-time number one thing that I hated. And that was the discrimination. No one likes to be discriminated against. No one. And there were times in my life when I was given less than good service because I was overweight. And I notice it now. Now that I'm getting back to my weight, and I noticed it too when I used to be a bodybuilder and I used to be at my goal weight. I noticed when you go to the mechanic how quick they get you in. I noticed when you go get your tires rotated how they don't have a problem getting you in, but the girl that's overweight, she's got to wait. You know, everything, when you're a beautiful person, everything gets catered to you. But the discrimination is just the worst. At the restaurants where I went, being sat at the back of the restaurant, there were times when I know that I deserved that promotion at work. I knew that I had the better skills. I knew that I had the better education. But it was given to someone else because they were thin and they had the better appearance at the front desk. The jobs that I did not get, and I know there was one job especially, and I do want to mention them because till this day I have not gotten over it. And it was from Petco. And I actually went for the interview, and I had qualifications up the wazoo. I was manager and I was qualifying for manager, and they loved my application online. And the minute I showed up for the application, the man took one look at me and he said, "You do understand that this job is very physical?" I said, "I do understand that." I said, and I was working for your opposing company, and I was a great manager for them. I made them a lot of money. And he says, "Well, but you do he kept saying, "But you do understand it's very physical." And I said, "I do understand it's very physical." And all of a sudden, he picks up his phone and he says, "Oh, I got to take this." It didn't even ring. And he left, and he never came back. Now, normally I will not give the name out of a company or talk bad about anyone, but that was just totally uncalled for. And there's been, a few other instances where I've gone to a car dealership and the car salesman has told me, "Oh no, you don't want that car because you're not going to fit in there. Their seatbelts don't go." Stuff like that. It's, there's a lot of discrimination that goes on. And I don't want to say that it's okay, because it's not okay. And I think that we should all start learning to love and accept everyone a little more. And I think we should also try to help each other when it comes to stuff like that, because you never know how that person got that way. The things that they had to endure in their life and the troubles they had to go through. So I'm hoping that next time that you're out and about and you see that person who's obese on the street, or you see that person who's overweight, you think of this video. And I hope that you think of me. And remember to be kind to that person. Because whether you have 20 pounds of fat on your body or 40 pounds of fat, 100, 200, 300 pounds of fat on your body, when you strip away all that fat, there's a heart. And that heart has feelings, just like any skinny person out there. So, with that, I will leave you guys to have a wonderful day, have a wonderful week, month, year, have a wonderful everything. And please, let's learn to care for and love one another and help each other out. And in the middle of that, I hope that you always remain healthy and happy.